You might be wondering how to remember so many constitutional amendments and which ones actually matter for UPSC exams. By the end of this video, you will be completely clear about the major amendments and their exam significance. I will walk you through the key amendments in a simple story, focusing on why they mattered and how they changed the Constitution. We will start with early post-independence reforms, move through emergency era changes, then cover decentralization, social justice, and recent economic reforms. The First Amendment of 1951 tackled practical problems faced by the young republic and tried to protect land and agrarian reform laws from being struck down. It created Article 31A, Article 31B, and the Ninth Schedule to shield certain state laws like zamindari abolition from judicial invalidation. Think of the Ninth Schedule as a protective cover placed over specific laws so they could survive court challenges while social reforms proceeded. The Seventh Amendment of 1956 reorganized states on linguistic and administrative lines, reshaping the map and schedules to match the States Reorganization Act. The 10th and 13th Amendments formalized integration of territories and granted statehood to regions like Nagaland with special safeguards for local customs. The 24th and 25th Amendments of 1971 were Parliament's answer to judicial limits on amendment power and to protect social reform laws guided by directive principles. The 24th clarified that Parliament could amend fundamental rights, overturning the Golaknath position, while the 25th sought to give primacy to certain directive principles. Remember that Keshavananda Bharati later introduced the basic structure doctrine, limiting Parliament's amending power despite the 24th Amendment. The 26th Amendment abolished privy purses, ending official payments and privileges to former princely rulers and advancing egalitarian politics. During the emergency period, the 38th and 42nd Amendments altered judicial review, extended terms of legislatures, and added words like socialist and secular to the preamble. The 42nd was sweeping and controversial, changing many structures of governance, and several of its provisions were later rolled back or struck down. The 44th Amendment restored several pre-emergency positions, reduced the Lok Sabha term back to 5 years, and made emergency proclamations more tightly controlled. The 34th Amendment expanded the Ninth Schedule to protect more land ceiling and tenure reform acts from judicial challenge. Several amendments focused on social justice and representation, like the 51st, which adjusted reservation for scheduled tribes in specific northeastern areas. The 52nd Amendment introduced the 10th Schedule, the anti-defection law, to curb political defections and add stability to legislatures. The 61st Amendment lowered the voting age from 21 to 18, broadening the franchise and changing electoral politics. The 65th reconstituted the National Commission for Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes to strengthen oversight and safeguards. The 69th granted Delhi a special status as the National Capital Territory with a legislative assembly and limited powers. The 73rd and 74th Amendments gave constitutional status to Panchayati Raj and urban local bodies, setting up Part 9 and Part 9A with schedules for functions and reservations. Think of these as constitutional plumbing, giving local governments tools, responsibilities, and guaranteed representation for SCs, STs, and women. The 76th validated a big state reservation scheme by placing it in the 9th Schedule, while the 77th allowed reservation in promotions for SCs and STs in services. The 80th Amendment reworked tax sharing between centre and states based on the 10th Finance Commission, changing fiscal federalism rules. The 85th then provided consequential seniority to those promoted through reservation, a practical fix for administrative careers. The 86th made free and compulsory education a fundamental right for children aged 6 to 14 under Article 21A. The 89th created the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes to mirror protections available to scheduled castes. Amendments like the 91st capped Council of Ministers' size and tightened anti-defection consequences for holding office during a disqualification term. The 93rd allowed states to reserve seats in private unaided educational institutions for backward classes with constitutional safeguards. The 97th inserted cooperative societies into Part 3 and added Article 43B to promote democratic functioning of cooperatives. The 99th briefly created the National Judicial Appointments Commission, but the Supreme Court struck it down, restoring the collegium for judge appointments. The 100th ratified the land boundary settlement with Bangladesh, solving decades-old enclave issues and updating the first schedule. The 101st introduced the Goods and Services Tax, a major fiscal federal reform harmonizing indirect taxes across India. The 102nd gave constitutional status to the National Commission for Backward Classes, strengthening its role in policy and safeguards. The 103rd added up to 10% reservation for economically weaker sections, inserting clauses in Articles 15 and 16 for economic criteria. Across these amendments, themes recur: protecting social reform laws, balancing fundamental rights and directive principles, deepening federalism, and promoting inclusion. For visuals, imagine the Constitution as a living building. Some amendments reinforced foundations, some added new rooms, others rewired power circuits. And towards the end, we will understand a key idea that most UPSC aspirants miss about how amendments interact with judicial review. Exam insight. Questions often test the purpose and effect of a specific amendment, the articles added, or the constitutional schedules changed. For prelims, link amendment numbers to short functions like 9th schedule protections or 10th schedule anti-defection rules. For mains, explain the constitutional principle affected, the social or federal impact, and any landmark judicial response like Keshavananda Bharti. The crucial takeaway is that amendments are political choices that the judiciary can interpret but not always overturn when basic structure is preserved. Quick recap. First, protects land reforms and creates 9th schedule, 24th and 25th shift amendment power and directive principles balance. 42nd was sweeping. 44th, roll back excesses. 73rd and 74th empowered local democracies. 86th made education a right. 93rd and 103rd touched reservation and inclusion. And 101st created GST. Keep flashcards for each amendment with year, one-line purpose, major articles added, and a quick judicial note to revise efficiently. If you build this map in your mind, linking amendments to themes instead of memorizing numbers, recall becomes much easier under exam pressure. You are close to mastering this topic. So practice a few MCQs and write short answers summarizing each amendment in 2 lines. Thanks for listening. Stay curious and systematic in your revision, and you will see steady improvement. For a ready set of notes, timelines, and practice questions that follow this exact flow, continue learning with EduRev, where structured resources await you. Good luck with your UPSC preparation. And remember that understanding intent beats rote learning every time.